Welcome to the Manhattan GMAT Study Hall for May 31st, 2012. Today's topic is going to be some examples from the You Might Love It, You Might Hate It integrated reasoning section. So by overwhelmingly popular request, we've had lots and lots and lots of people asking to do things from this section. So do things from this section we will. So welcome back. And we're going to get started here. So as usual, we have to begin with the rules. The rules. You know, everybody's favorite thing, right? The usual. Let's go through that. Okay, the kinds of problems you don't want to submit. I think you guys know this by now, but in case anybody here is new, please nothing too general, please nothing too specific, especially not the specifics. That's why we have a forum. So if you're going to ask about a single problem, please, please, please just post the problem on the forum and ask your question there. No personal issues. Please don't ask about your own study plan or your own scores or your own plans or schools or etc. Hundreds of people watch these things, and I mean people don't really want to watch other people's study plans as important as they may be to the individual. Luckily, we have a place for that. We have the general questions folder in the forum, and we also have the Ask an Admissions Consultant folder in the forum. So there you go. General questions folder for GMAT study plans, and then Ask an Admissions Consultant for questions related to schools and admissions. What we should see is topics of intermediate depth. So basically narrow enough to be a study hall, but wide enough to not be a single question. If you do include a question, it's probably best if you do include a question, just so that you're not asking abstractions. It's best to tie your question to a particular problem, but you should make sure to generalize your question so that you're actually asking a study hall topic. Don't forget, not allowed to use the OG. That's the rules. That's how we roll here. GMAT has specifically asked us not to use OG, so please don't. There you go. Couple, specific examples. Please don't submit OG problems again. Please don't submit single questions. Please, please, please put them on the forums. And then, please don't be rude or demanding. Again, this is a business context type of thing. I mean, there's a certain amount of subtlety there that goes with the language, but at the same time, you got to learn what works and what doesn't work as far as etiquette, decorum, things like that. So, yeah. And I mean, one thing that's not, it may be, Poonam OG is the official guide to the GMAT. It's the book published by GMAC. Okay. What usually happens here is things are lost in translation, meaning you have people saying things that would be normal requests in their own language, but in English they just happen to translate as, wow, that's kind of rude. So you gotta be careful there, but I mean, when people post in the forums, if you read enough of my posts, I try to comment on, when those things happen, I try to comment on, please don't do this, this is rude in America. Just in case it happens. Like, expect a reply, not so much okay. This would be okay if you were the boss and you were talking to people who worked for you, but when it's a peer-peer relationship, or especially you're the client, we're the professional, this is not so hot. Also, we've been getting more of lately, I'll go ahead and just type this down there. Please don't play with the board, guys. Okay. The other thing that people have been doing, which is sort of weird that I feel compelled to comment on, is in addition to being sort of rude occasionally, we've also been seeing these kind of strangely emotionally infused posts, like, so let me just type this on the bottom, but also don't be so, how should I say it? Don't be so, I guess, demonstrative. What I mean by that is, all caps, please, 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 XXXXX is not really okay. I mean, you may really want us to treat a certain topic, but this, in a business context, people, is not the way to ask for that. So, we've been seeing an uptick of things like this recently. It's interesting. Just remember that everything you write is like professional correspondence here. So, it's just as important as learning the GMAT. You gotta learn kind of how the stuff works with people. So, any questions? If you have questions, please type in that text box. Okay. The other thing, please check the archives. There are something like 60 archived sessions at this point. So, chances are that most major topics have been dealt with in some way already. So what this means is that if you're going to suggest a topic, then you should first check out the archive and see whether your topic is in the archive. If your topic is in the archive, then watch it. And if there's any aspect we did not cover or of which you didn't understand our coverage, please specify. Like, I'd like to cover this aspect of this problem. We didn't do it in the study hall dated whatever date. But we try not to be redundant. It's getting hard not to be redundant because we've had like 60 study halls at this point, but we're still right now trying to do things that are new. So we're doing integrated reasoning today. We'll probably do some more integrated reasoning next time. By the way, next time isn't going to be for a while. I think the next study hall is not until the 21st or 28th. So, because some of us are going on vacation, and thanks Encore 28th. Some of us are going out of town, and then also we understand that a lot of people are kind of taking a break from the GMAT with the changeover to integrated reasoning. So we are going to take about a month until the next session. All right. Let's get into it. Where are the archive recordings? The archive recordings, people are, this is the Thursdays with Ron page. It's the regular Thursdays with Ron homepage. The archives are on that same page. There's only one web page for Thursdays with Ron, and it's got everything on it. Encore just posted a link, thank you. So if you scroll down, you'll see like scroll down. You'll see a million zillion links to archived recordings. So, Encore's favorite bookmark. That's so cute. I like that. All right. Thanks, Encore. That's actually a genuine compliment. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. Now, remember what we're doing is we're doing integrated reasoning today. So, seeing it's awesome. Thanks for the kind words, guys. Okay. Here is what is going on here. We're doing integrated reasoning today. And one thing about integrated reasoning is that it's not your traditional multiple choice type of deal. So what we're going to need is a new way to indicate answers. Because you get these things that are sort of like this. I mean, you'll see this problem later. I mean, this is not A, B, C, D, E. And we don't want everybody in the world typing their answer in the chat box at the same time, which would just be horribly awkward. So here's what we're going to do instead. What you, Poonam, yes, we will treat that in a second. It's not super important for the time being, unless you have a relatively long time horizon, which some people here might. So we'll get there. Okay, what you might notice today is that these whiteboard tools are enabled. I usually disable these because otherwise people wind up dragging a bunch of stuff around the screen by accident, but Today we have enabled these whiteboard tools. Let me direct all of your attention to this particular tool right here. That one. That one is the pointer tool. When you select the pointer tool, what you should see underneath your window is a bunch of pointers. You can select any pointer that you want. It doesn't really matter. So when you select this tool, you'll see a variety of pointers. So everybody go ahead and pick the pointer tool. So select this, and then pick any of these random pointers, and then everybody go ahead and point. To use the pointer, what you have to do is you have to click and hold it down. So everybody point at an answer choice. This is how we're going to do this. We're going to be pointing at answer choices. There's going to be a million billion pointers on the screen, but you know, yeah, okay. So we'll get an idea of, by the way, please do not use the arrow pointer. This is the danger here, and this is why we usually disable these tools. Do not use the arrow pointer. Please, please, please. Because if you do, then you're going to accidentally drag things around, which some of you have already done by accident. So do not use this. Make sure you use do not use that. See, people are using that. Don't use it. Click on the pointer, please, and then click on a pointer from the selection that you get at the bottom. Really important because we're going to have like a million zillion different people trying to answer these, and this is the best way to do it. So, okay. Let's treat these two questions before we dig into the actual problems. Okay. Two questions in a text box. There's this. I submitted a couple of questions about SC grammar. I mean, okay, like one thing that you have to realize here is that the realization you got to make first, and it's sort of unfortunate, but it's kind of like this whenever any program is popular. We can only use a small percentage of submissions. Like, we get a lot of submissions. During some times of year, we actually get 30 or 40 submissions for every one that we can actually use. So, unfortunately, the way those numbers play out is that whatever topic you submit, we probably won't cover right away. And if your question is specific enough, then you should post on the forum, and that's where you'll get an answer to it. But that's the most important realization to make there. And then also, I don't know what the questions were in particular, but make sure that if something is already in the archives, then we are going to try not to cover it again. So, I mean, the short answer is the odds are not so great, but if lots of people ask about something, then we'll do it. Like, we're doing integrated reasoning today because, like, 10 different people asked questions about it. So, usually we use topics with many requests. This is especially true in high volume times of year because we're trying to maximize the utility here. This question, I heard it's a new part of the GMAT. We don't really need to study it too heavily because the scores in this area are still trying to be determined. This is actually quite true. We're not covering this because it's supremely important. We're covering it because it was requested with this landslide of popularity. So, but this is true. If you are going to be in if you are applying this fall, you probably shouldn't stress out over integrated reasoning because it's a brand new section, and what that means is that they're still calibrating. I mean, no one really knows what the scores on this section mean yet. And remember that your applicant pool will contain a large number, perhaps even a majority, I mean, depending on how it shakes out, of people who don't have this score on their GMAT. So what that means, I mean, if 60% of your applicants don't have the integrated reasoning score, then you can't really use it because, that would be inherently unfair to one group or the other, or possibly even unfair to both. So, as a result, even if the scores are well calibrated, they shouldn't really matter for admissions in the coming fall. But at the same time, the test is evolving. GMAC doesn't really display their next move too often, so you don't always know exactly what the score is with GMAC. But what I would suspect is that, if you're applying this fall, so meaning this fall or this winter for 2013 full-time programs. So applying for fall 2013 full-time programs. Yeah, which would be that you would have to apply this fall or this winter for those programs, yeah. Okay. So this is a short version here is that, they don't matter that much. This is a section that's relatively unimportant. But down the line, my hypothesis is that they are eventually moving towards making most of the GMAT like this. Like what I would think, given the changes that have been made in the test so far, is that they would eventually like in a few years or whatever for the GMAT to mostly be like integrated reasoning, or at least to have a large significant component of that. Because that's kind of what they're going at. It's a very real, as you're going to see, it's a very real world type of thing. It's not like rote, it's not like school stuff. Instead, it's like business reasoning to a certain extent. So, yeah. Okay, last question before we get started is this is correct. It's not part of the 200 through 800 score. The components of the 200 through 800 score are unchanged. So for now, basically for now, the test is the same test that you have come to know and love. It has this extra little experimental part attached to it, but it's the same test at the end of the day. Okay, questions, please type in the box. Jess, I noticed you've had some text in your box for a while, so if you aren't typing something, you might want to erase that. If you are, then go ahead and submit it, and then, okay, remember this is not an admissions forum, so I'm going to table the questions about admissions and applications at this point, because we're Manhattan GMAT. We're not so much Manhattan application. So we do partner with an MBA mission we do have an MBA mission partnership with MBA Missions, a company that specializes in that kind of stuff. So and they have a folder on the forum where you could post this question. Unfortunately, we can't do one-on-one tutoring in these study halls. If you have a question like that, please go ahead and post it in the forum. So if it's a general question, then post it in the general verbal folder. So yeah, I hope you understand, this is a study hall watched by hundreds of people. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Remember that you're supposed to use the pointer tool. Please, please, people, use the pointer tool. Cannot emphasize this enough. The pointer tool is your friend. Okay, let's take a look at a problem. See, we're not doing the answer buttons today, so let's get rid of that. Today we're going to use the pointer tool. Okay, please select the pointer tool. Please leave the pointer tool selected. Please do not use the arrow pointer. Please, please, please. It should just stay on the pointer tool. If you have selected it, it will stay there. So that way you're not dragging things around the screen. Because that just makes life not fun for everyone. Okay, all of the problems are from the new GMAT prep with integrated reasoning. So let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, you didn't even see that screen, did you? Okay, here's the screen that I actually wanted to show you. That screen right there. All of the problems are from the GMAT prep software. Please use the pointer tool and not the arrow pointers. And we're going to have a good time here. Okay. Here is the first problem. Now, this looks like a bunch of craziness, but let me tell you what goes on here. What you're going to see when you get this question on the screen is that much of it. That's what you're going to see. Okay, you're not going to see all of this, but what's going on here is this is a pull-down menu where you can arrange the data in the chart in different sorts of ways. So I think right now they're not arranged by anything at all. They're arranged by commodity in alphabetical order. You can select this, you can select this, you can select this, you can select this. So basically what you're going to see on the screen is that there's one of these. Right now we don't have the opportunity to put the pull-down menu on the screen, so I've just given you every menu at once. But do be aware that you will have to select back and forth between these pieces of information. So I'll give you about 3 minutes, 2 minutes, let's say 2 minutes. I'll give you 3 minutes to look at this, which is a little bit more than you have on average, but remember what you should do. You should pick answers in your head. Don't point at anything yet. Just get an answer in your head, and then at the end of the time, we will all use the pointers at once. Have fun. Sorry, I had a little technical problem there for a second, so if you were waiting too long. Hope you weren't waiting too long. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Please pick one of the pointer tools. That's any of these. It doesn't really matter which one of these pointers you use. I mean, you should have a lot of them. I mean, ideally, it'd be kind of cool if a bunch of people were using different pointers, because then you'll kind of see where everybody's at. But, okay, let's use the pointer for this part right now. So point at either the yes or the no. Okay, so it looks like the class, I mean, again, see, it's kind of a chaos, but more yeses than nos. Okay. Now please use the pointer for this. The second part. Okay, so we have totally almost equal proportions there, it looks like. And then please use the pointer for one of these two. Also, remember, you can't skip these problems. Unlike the regular multiple choice, there's no way for me to really tell if you guys are answering everything because I can't count 23 pointers. But make sure that you are answering all the questions. So, okay, let's talk about this. Let's see what's going on here. So let me take all of these guys over to the next page. Okay, let's talk about the first question first. No individual country produces more than 1/4 of the world's sugar. So which one of these things do we need to look at to establish this? Go ahead and use your pointer to point at the one that probably makes the most sense out of those 5 tables. So this one's organized by commodity, and then the other ones are organized by other stuff. Okay. So what you're probably going to conclude here is that you want to use either the world share of production or the commodity. So one of those two is probably what you're going to want to use. So the first skill that's being tested here, which is not really a skill that's tested on the traditional parts of the GMAT, is selecting information that's relevant. And this is really a huge, huge thing. Like, you filtering, I guess you'd call it, relevant information is going to be hugely important on the IR section. In fact, this is the one reason why I actually think that the IR section is going to become a lot more important down the road. Is that right now you have this issue where, especially in the quant section, they kind of just hand you all the information that you need to solve the problem, which is really not like anything in real life. I mean, especially if you're going to go into business. Like 99% of business making decisions is like sorting out the things that matter and the things that don't. So it's really important that you be able to do the same here. So this is a question about, this is a fraction of production, and it's a fraction about sugar. So there's really 2 ways that you could approach this. But just, you know, in either way, you're singling out information that actually matters. So one way to do it is produces more than 1/4. So then you could arrange according to this criterion, and then look for numbers over 25%. Or what you could do is just leave everything arranged by commodity, like the first chart, and look for sugar. So either way, let's see what happens, right? So if we just look at sugar, the top ranked country in the world produces 21% of the sugar. So that means that nobody produces more than 21%. So this is going to be true. If we're looking at the chart arranged by world share, this is probably not as good because you still need to find sugar. So it's not a hugely long table or anything, but you still need to find that column. But the only places where you have over 25% are commodities that are not sugar. Now you do have to be careful because, for instance, beef is 15%, but that's second place in the world, which leaves open the possibility that the first place beef could totally be more than 25%. But this is the top production in the world of sugar. So definitely less than 25%. Any questions, please leave them in the text box. Otherwise, let's look at the next part. Okay. Now let's look at this. If Brazil produces less than 20% of the world's supply of any commodity listed, Brazil is not the world's top exporter. Okay, go ahead and use your pointer and point at which one of these things makes the most sense to look at. Which one of these 5? The top one is commodity. Okay, so most of the pointers, it doesn't look like we have that many pointers. There's 24 of you guys here, so we should be seeing more pointers than that. But, okay, most of you guys seem to be pointing either at this or this. But let me ask you, so it's in other words, it's not going to be these things, because rank in production is irrelevant, and world share of exports is irrelevant. Because the only two things that are actually relevant here are that's production percentage, and then that's export rank. So it makes the most sense to arrange by one of those things. But like the first thing you want to do is figure out what the heck information is actually being tested. So what information is actually in the question? So the question only deals with 2 kinds of information. First, there's the percent of production. And second, that's the gold part. And then second, there's the brown part, which is rank in world exports. Worldwide rank in exports. Okay. So it's got to be, I mean, it doesn't make sense to arrange a table by anything else. So there were a couple pointers on the other charts. If you were one of those people, just make sure you take a moment to appreciate that that's not really a great way to arrange things. So, okay, now, here, let's clear out these pointers. Okay. Which one of these are we actually trying to find first? So, go ahead and use your pointer and point at one of these 2 things. Like actually point over here with your little pointer thingies. Which one are we actually trying to find first? Yeah, most of you guys are on point there, which is interesting because there seem to be more pointers here when you guys did the question. So maybe people are already realizing things, which would be great, but let's make sure we go over this. I mean, the point here is that you should just consider a real-life example. You really don't want to like memorize rules for this kind of thing, because why would you? This is all stuff that you know how to do already. But if you say consider a real-life example, if you say most athletes at school X have GPAs between 2.5 and 3.2. So to answer this, it should be, I mean, I don't know how to articulate a rule, and I don't want to articulate a rule. But when you look at this, it should be obvious that what you need to do is find the athletes, not find all the people with 2.5 to 3.2. And then just once you've found all the athletes, then you see how many of them are in that range. So this is a statement about all athletes, not about all students in this GPA range. So you would go find the athletes first. If we make the analogy here, then what are we trying to find first? Well, if Brazil produces less than 20% of the world's supply, so this is the qualifier. Like, this is the part that tells you what it is that you're supposed to be looking for. So you need to find this first, because that's what the statement is about. Like, the statement is not about being the top exporter in the world. The statement is about this. So we should arrange by share of production again. And then we should cut off all the points where it's 20% or more. So we're looking at the parts that are less than 20%. That's up to there. And you can see this statement is false, because there are two things in this group. Be careful not to get turned around with not and stuff. There's two things in this group where Brazil is indeed the world export leader of a commodity, even though they are producing less than 20% of it. So this is false. For this statement to be true, you would actually need every one of those export ranks to be less than number 1. So, most importantly, though, make sure you know why you would filter by this and not by export rank. Any questions about this, go ahead and type in the text box, please. Okay, so here's what we have so far. We're going to look at one more question in a second. What we have is you need to decide which information is actually relevant. And then once you make that decision, if you have an if-then statement or a statement about a part of a sample, then decide which restriction you need to find first. So, nothing that, this is not a rules-based kind of system. Like, the wrong way to approach this is to try to memorize a bunch of rules. Not going to work. But the right way to approach this is to just say, okay, what matters here is this. And then this is a statement about all of those guys. Okay, let's look at the next part, which is not that. Let's look at the next part, which is this. Okay, of all of the commodities for which Brazil ranks first in world exports. So let's go through this one a little bit more rapidly, but this is definitely a question about commodities for which Brazil ranks first in world exports. So what we want is rank in world exports. So let's delete the other parts and let's do world export rank. So you want to find the ones where it ranks first. That's these three. Orange juice. Sorry, that's these 5. Orange juice, coffee, sugar, beef, chickens. Of these commodities, Brazil produces more than 20% of the world's supply. If Brazil produces 20%, let me think about that for a second. Let's see. The commodities for which it ranks first in world exports. I'm seeing that's probably true. I think there's, some like logic thing behind that, but I don't think it's a very profitable way to think in general. Because if you're looking for relationships between the questions, you are totally not going to be able to focus on like what information matters and what information doesn't matter. I mean, there are some little transformations that you can do to these statements, and that may be one of them. But if you're looking at the way that like you would flip this statement around to make that statement, that's not so good, especially considering, number one, you won't usually be able to do that, and number two, you don't have a lot of time. So it's better to just look at the questions individually and say, what are they asking me about? So you might be right here, but I don't think that's the best way to approach it. Okay. So we're looking at, this is a statement about the commodities where Brazil ranks first in world exports. Does Brazil produce more than 20% in every case? Well, no, it does not, because that's 16 and that's 15. So that is false. Okay. Any questions about any of the items in this problem? If you have them, please type in the text box. If not, we will move on. All right. Someone's typing something, so let's see what that is. I'm pretty sure the question in the text box is there partial credit? I don't know. Actually, don't have any idea. I mean, I think that each component of the question might count separately. So, meaning if you got, like, I mean, if you see these things in the GMAT prep software, they call all of this like question number like 1 or whatever. But I think it might work. I don't think you have to get them all right, although I'm not sure. In the software, I think it does count it as incorrect unless you get all the parts right. But inside the computer, I'm not positive. So it might be either way. Well, when we find out more on that, we will certainly broadcast it loud and clear on places like forums and so on. Okay. Leo, I think I'm misunderstanding your question, but the question says, is the statement true? And maybe I'm not seeing what you're asking me here, but the statement is false, so you pick no. If you're asking a different question than that, then please tell me. But if it says, is the statement true, and it's false, you should definitely not pick yes. Oh, I think I see where you might be going with this. You might be thinking it's like data sufficiency, where like if you can resolve the issue either way. It's not like data sufficiency. No, this says if. This does not say whether. It's not a data sufficiency type of thing. This is just follow directions. It's if the statement is true, then pick yes. And if it's not, then don't. So make sure you're clear on that. Yeah, okay, I get it. It's because data sufficiency is kind of built into your brain circuits at this point. But if it says if this is true, then it has to actually be true to pick yes. It's not just you can resolve the issue. So I hope that's clear. Okay, let's move on. Here's another set of questions. Now, what you're going to see when you actually do this is these are clickable tabs, and you're going to see exactly one of these things at a time. So you will not see all three at once. Instead, you'll see this, or you'll see this. Before we do questions, let's talk about what in the world, what should we do with this information before we start answering questions? What do you guys think? What do you think you should do with this info? Type in the chat box. Resize this. Okay, there. Cross-reference the info. What does that mean in concrete, actionable terms? But not the question yet. What I'm talking about is not even the question yet. Like before you even look at the question. What should you do? And by the way, I mean the word "do" here very literally. What I mean by that is you should be telling me things that are actionable, meaning not just abstract statements like you should cross-reference, because we don't really know what cross-reference means. I mean, that could mean like 18 billion zillion different things. Instead, it should be like you should notice this very specific thing. So like, yeah, take notes, says Zoran, but notes on what? I mean, that's the point. We need this to be, actionable. Read it, not actionable. You're not saying what you're reading for. Manipulate, that's getting closer to it. But it's more just like, okay, what type of information do I have? Like, notice what type of information is where. And then notice, I mean, yeah, see, the thing is you guys are saying things like, the things you guys are saying are not false, but they're not actionable. They're not like select the tabs to see what they contain is not helpful. Because, I mean, when you select the tabs, of course, you're going to look at what they contain. What I'm trying to get you guys to realize is that you have to have a plan. You can't just, like, let your eyes, like, swim through the information and be like, cool information. Like, you have to be like, what is this information? So the questions are going to come up. This is a multiple choice question. This is one question, not 5. So to that end, actually, let me give you the multiple choice options. Okay. All right. What type of information is where, and then notice any relationships in that information. You don't need to know what the actual information is, because that would just be a waste of your time. I mean, remember that you will have these things as, it's like reading comp. I mean, the information will still be there. So don't bother trying to remember it. Instead, just index it. Be able to find what you need to find quickly. And I mean, if you guys are struggling with time here, yeah, the gist of what it is more, that's a better summary. That's actionable. You get the main idea of what is in there. If any of you guys are struggling with time on these questions, what it means is that you're not organizing. It means that you're not doing this. Like it means that you're not able to find what you have to find, and that's what's costing you time. So, I mean, that sounds simplistic, probably, but that's going to be the deal. So what's in the techniques part? Well, they analyze historical artifacts using these things. And then for each type of material, the museum uses only the technique described. So the first tab is techniques. It's a reference between techniques and materials. That means if I have a technique and I go to tab 1, I can figure out what materials. And if I have a material and I go to tab number 1, I can figure out what technique. Number 2. They found a bunch of stuff. There's dates of the Caxna Kingdom. And then that's a date range. Wooden artifact, that's another date fact. And then these are more date facts. So tab number 2 has information about specific dates, which tab number 1 doesn't have. Like tab number 1 doesn't have anything about particular dates. It just says like, oh, if you want to find out how old something is, then you use this technique. But it doesn't tell you how to use it or how to interpret the results as the second part does. The third part is budget. So now we're going from money to different combinations of tests. So techniques and monetary cost. Cost in dollars. So like if you do this, it should be a lot more clear what you have to find on any given problem like this. Because, you know, hey, look, if they give me materials and ask me a question about money, then I'm going to need to look at tab 1 first. And then I'm going to need to cross-check that against tab 3, because those are connected. It's a relationship. And then the techniques about dates will give me a connection to number 2, and so on. So it's like an index. I mean, what you're given right now is kind of like a reference book without an index. Like if you're a chemistry major, it's kind of like, okay, on page 441, there's a table of standard boiling points. But you don't have a table of contents that says that. Well, what you would do in that case is be like, if I need a boiling point, it's on page 441. Obviously, you do not memorize the boiling point of everything in the world. So like, same sort of thing, all you need to figure out here, you absolutely do not need to read through all of this information. If you do, you will run out of time. I guarantee it. You don't have to. Index. What kind of stuff is where? Index. That's an index. So now that we have an index, let's start looking at questions. Let's get this out of here. Okay, so here's your index. Let's put that up there. So go ahead and try this question. This is your normal answer buttons multiple choice kind of question. So please use the, I think you guys know the drill by now, but you should have these guys in the corner of your screen. You don't use your pointer this time because it's a multiple choice question with regular choices. Give it a shot. I'll give you, I don't know, 2 minutes or something. Go for it. Okay, people, let's pick something. If you need an extra 15, 20 seconds, then take it. But try not to take too much longer than an extra 15 or 20 seconds here. Just remember, time is a thing. that you have to pay attention to. Okay, guys, if you have to guess, please guess. There's still about half the class with no answer. So you can't take this long to answer one question. Remember, no pointers. No pointers. These are buttons. These are answer buttons that should be over there on your own screen. Do not click more than one time, please. If you do, then it will erase your existing answer. So, okay, if you are REG, Dilip, Kotea, Leo, or Roshi, Nair, or Niels, you gotta pick an answer. You cannot sit there and stare at the problem. We're going on like 4 minutes now, so just pick something, please. Okay, let's kill it. I mean, a lot of you guys still haven't picked an answer yet, but not a lot. You can't do that. If you hesitate once, then you're gonna not be able to recover on the time. So, like, we have 5 non-responses here. One of those is me, but the other 4, whoever those are, you gotta answer the question, guys. So, okay, let's look at it. What do we need? Well, what would provide the evidence that the artifact was actually produced on Caxna? So this is a physical location. So we need techniques that will give us information about physical location of origin. So, and what we have is we have the techniques here. So we should just be able to read this, and we probably don't have to cross-reference anything, because these are already techniques. So you just got to kind of look at what's in there and see what the techniques are all about. And whichever technique is about physical location, that's the right one. So radiocarbon dating is just how old is it, not where. So this is not right. IRMS analysis gives information about diet and water supply of an animal, but that's not direct information about physical location. TL date is another way of figuring out how old stuff is, but it's not about where. ICP-MS, oh hey, look at that, differ according to where the sample was obtained, and moreover, they say the only place that you get these is on Caxna. So this is going to be it. Because they specifically say that it's about physical location of origin. And if Caxna is the only place where they had that data, then that's going to mean produced on Caxna. Notice B is not as good. Some people would argue that B might work because what if those diet minerals are only on Caxna? Well, the problem is they don't tell you that. You would have to make that up. So here they actually tell you only on Caxna do you find this kind of element ratios. And then this is just found, it's where they found it. This is not a technique or anything, but if it was found near a quarry, that doesn't mean anything at all, because who knows where it came from. It's just where they found it. It could have come from halfway around the world. So there it is. But I mean, again, if you don't know where to find stuff, this is going to be a not fun kind of ordeal. So the question in the text box is, why did we pick the Techniques tab? Because this describes what the techniques do. Because you want to, in order to figure this out, you have to figure out, again, it's what we said at the beginning. We have to figure out this. We have to figure out, how do I determine physical location of origin? So we have to look up which technique will actually give us that information. Okay, let's move on to another question on the same data. So here is the index. Let's take the index over to the next page. And then, okay. Let me make those things smaller. And then move them so that they fit. Now, here. I'm moving things around in case you guys are wondering. Okay, here's your index that we made on the previous question. Boom, index. All right, let's do this. There's 3 parts of this one, so you can take more time here because you have to effectively answer 3 different parts of the question. But, and again, make sure you parcel out your time accordingly. Like, this is one question, the one we just did. It's a single question. A couple of you took like almost 5 minutes to do this. That's not acceptable because this is one question. I mean, in the software, this is aggregate, this is a single question, but it's really 3 things. So you have to, it's okay to spend a little bit more time here because you have to do 3 things instead of 1. But make sure that you realize that. Like, the last problem should not have taken you anywhere close to 4 minutes. And if it did, that's an issue that you got to work on rectifying. Okay, try it. I'll give you, let's say, 3:33 or something. Okay, boom, go. I made that time up completely, but give it a shot, see how you do. Not the answer buttons anymore. This is a pointer question. So pick an answer. I'll pause you for a second. Pick an answer. Don't point. Don't indicate yet. And we'll use the pointers at the end. So go for it. Ladies and gentlemen, okay. So remember to select the pointer tool, please. I love you all, but please select the pointer tool. Let's point at one or the other. I think somebody might be putting dots on there. If you did put dots on there, please don't do that. The dots are actually not the correct answers anyway. So, okay, the first one, pointers, please. Okay, so mostly yes here, but some no's. The second one, pointers, please. Remember, you have to click and hold down to use the pointer. Still the second one, people. Somebody's still on the first one and somebody's on the third one. Okay, third one, please. All right, somebody's check mark is still on the first one, so let's get that off there if you can. All right, so let's take a look. We're kind of all over the place here, but let's look at that. Okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, somebody put their green check mark on there. I don't know how to. I can't really take it away without killing all of your permissions and making you select a pointer again. But I guess I'll just do that. Okay. That didn't work. Well, the problem is that green check's in the wrong place, because number 2 is the first one's actually a yes. So let's take a look at it, but let me just wipe that pointer. I guess I can't wipe the pointer. Okay, pointer's gone. All right, 2 fired clay sets. So what are we doing here, people? Like, someone summarize in the text box. What are we doing, and which chart of information do we need to do it? But the first thing we need to answer is, what are we doing? So, what are we doing? What you're eventually doing is finding a cost, or at least finding as much information about cost as you can. And where are you starting from? Budget is cost. So that's not where you're starting from, but that's more the end goal. You're starting from techniques, right? This is the goal, but your starting point is the techniques and materials, right? You're starting with materials. It's not even techniques. Like, remember, guys, you need to read the information very literally. Like, you don't start with techniques, because these are not techniques. These are materials. These are stuff that you analyze. So what you have to nail down here very objectively before you start is, what do I have and what do I want? The answer to what do I have is a bunch of stuff to analyze, not a bunch of techniques, a bunch of things, items that I'm doing an analysis of. Make sure this is clear. And then what I want at the end is it in budget or not, which is an issue of cost or price. So that means that I'm definitely going to have to use it. Now you can see the huge advantage of making an index like this. It should be pretty clear that I need tab 1 and tab 3, and then I don't need tab 2. Because I'm going to need to go from materials to techniques, and then from techniques to cost. That's how I'm going to get there. I'm going to start here, figure out this, which will give me this, and I'll figure out that. So, let's do it. Okay. Let's look at 2 fired clay statues, and I mean, Dilip, the start point is, what do you have? I mean, don't try to make too many rules where there's not rules. Like, look at the information that you have in each situation and see what it is. It's the best I can tell you. I mean, these are all the same type of information, but sometimes they won't be. So if the individual questions are different, then they're different. If they're not, then they're not. Okay. Okay, so what you would get out of this is that fired clay, I mean, they like fired clay a lot, so we should figure out what fired clay is. Well, fired clay is used for TL. And then these are things that are made of metal. So metals, we would use ICP-MS. We don't even care what ICP-MS does right now. Again, make sure you focus. You don't care what these tests do. It makes no difference. What you care about is how much they cost. So do not get lost in the discussion of what they do this time. It's how much does it cost? And then 20 wooden statues. I mean, wood is from trees, which is a plant material. So if you have that, then radiocarbon. Okay, let's see what we have here. So the first one we have 2 fired clay. So like notice that with the metallic stuff, you can get an exact fraction of the budget because we know that each ICP-MS test is exactly 1/40th of the budget. What we don't know is how this is split between TL and radiocarbon. So for TL and radiocarbon, what we're going to have to do is just box in the information. Like we'll have to produce, like, think about max or min values because we don't have exact values here. Seeing says, what if I don't know what tin is? I mean, yeah, there's going to be a point at which you have to know certain words. I mean, they're not going to give you obscure things, but I mean, tin is something that after using English for long enough that you should eventually know and encounter. Like a tin can is a can made of tin. You can buy tin foil to put your food in the oven. So I mean, there's a line where something becomes common knowledge, basically. Like there are lots of things that are metals that nobody knows are metals except for chemists. Like for example, cesium is a metal, but who the heck knows that? But tin that's in the box of what you might call common knowledge, and so that's why they can do that. In any case, I don't think that kind of thing is going to have a giant effect on anything. It might blow you on one problem, but it's not going to ruin your life or anything. So, yeah. Okay, so let's look at this one first. Let's get that we can kill the index, I guess, at this point. Wow. Okay. 2 fired clay statues and 10 bronze statues. So let's look at that first. That's 2 TLs. The first part is 2 TLs and 10 ICP-MS or whatever the heck it is. So we should probably start with this because this is exact information. This is 1/40th of the budget, and there's 10 of them. So this is 1/4 of the budget. Two TLs we don't know, but here's what we can figure out about 2 TLs. Like even if the radiocarbon tests are almost free, we know that we can still do 4 TL tests in our budget. So our budget has room for 4 TLs and other stuff. So this means that 4 TLs is less than the whole budget. Therefore, what that means about 2 TLs is less than half the budget. So what we have is a total of exactly 1/4 of the budget and then less than half of it. So can we afford this? Yes, we can. Because you're dealing with less than 3/4 of the budget. Okay, let's take these over to the next part. Bear with me while I copy and paste all of this stuff. Boom, boom. Okay, that didn't come out great, but we don't need number 2 anyway. All right, the second part is Looks like 7,000 is the total budget, but notice that we can do this without even dealing with those numbers. Those numbers are just kind of a distraction. These are nice enough fractions that we don't care what. I mean, 7,000 divided by 40 is some horrendous number, like $175. But 1/40th of budget is a lot easier to think of because it's 1/40th. It's a very nice fraction. So you don't. Yes, that's true, but you don't need that. It's more of this what's relevant and what's not kind of thing. The second part, 3, 5. So it's actually the same reasoning. So we can get through this kind of fast. We have three TLs, and we have 5 ICP-MS. So each ICP-MS is 1/40th. So that means that this is going to be 5/40ths, which is 1/8 of the budget. And this 4 TLs is less than the whole budget, so 3 TLs is less than 3/4 of the budget. Because it's 3/4 of that, so less than 3/4 of it. So what do we have? We have exactly 1/8 of the budget plus less than 3/4. That's a total of less than 7/8. So we can afford that. That would be another yes. So yes to the first one, yes to the second one. Any questions, go ahead and throw them in the text box. If not, let's look at the last part. Let's do it. Okay. The third part is, this time it's TLs and radiocarbons, but it's not that different. So we have 4 TLs and 15 radiocarbons. Sorry, 20 radiocarbons. So they're making your life not as hard as they could, because notice that the aggregate here is more than we can afford. Like 4 TLs and 15 radiocarbons is the whole budget. So the whole budget can pay for 4 TLs and 20 and 15 radiocarbons. So this is the whole budget plus an excess of 5 more radiocarbons. So that means we can't afford it, because it's too much when it's 5 more radiocarbons than we have a budget for. So this is no. I mean, what they're not doing to you here, like, notice that these are definitive. What's interesting is that they're not really giving you situations where you don't know. Like, same thing if you go back to this question right here about Brazil. There's not really an I don't know kind of thing. There's like definite yeses and definite nos. And then like same thing here, like if they were mean to you, what they could do is they could give you like 3 TLs and like 28 radiocarbons. If they gave you that, then you'd have to start realizing, oh hey, like if TLs are expensive enough and radiocarbons are cheap enough, then I can do that. But if not, then I can't. So, in fact, let me just, because we're about to run out of time here, let me go ahead and just make up that part for extra fun. And I mean, I think this is kind of above and beyond what they're actually going to have you do. But you never know. So, like, what if they had said, like, imaginary new question. Let's say 3 TLs and like 100 radiocarbons. So what we need to know now is the relative prices of these things. So what you would do is you would just consider extremes. You didn't have to consider extremes here because this is definitely more than the max budget. Like there's not even an issue here. Like it's clearly more than that. But here it's not. So like let's say each TL is close to 1/4 of the budget and radiocarbons are almost free. Because then that would work, right? Your 4 TL tests are like 99.9999999%, and this is like 2 cents. So if you have that, then you would be able to afford it. Because this would be 3/4 of your budget, and this would be like $1. So you would be fine. Now let's consider the other extreme. Let's say that the TLs are almost free. And each radiocarbon is close to 1/15 of the budget. Because then these are like $1, and these 15 guys are like your whole budget. So if that were true, then you would get no, I can't afford it, because I would be paying like triple my budget in this case, or actually six or 7 times my budget. So this would be it could go either way kind of thing. I don't think they're going to do as much of this, and the reason why I don't think they're going to is that you don't have a lot of time. Because this kind of thing would take a lot more time to investigate than this would. Like this, all you have to do is be like, dude, it's more than the budget. But at the same time, I think it's possible that they might present this alone instead of in like a group of 3. Because this is proportionately more involved, so they'll give you less work to do. I mean, again, this is all hypothetical. I mean, the integrated reasoning is not even rolled out yet, so we're guessing, kind of, at the end of the day, we're guessing about this. But that's what we're looking at. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to quit for today. Let's see, maybe we can do one more. How about this one? If you're going to post questions in the text box, please post them to everyone. So, JJ, that's you. Please repost that so that everybody can see it. Okay, let's do this problem. So, here is our index again. Let's get an index. Okay, try this, and Abhishek, no. You wouldn't have time for that. But on the quant section, sure. Max, magnify the whiteboard. You'd have to do that on your own window. I mean, if you have a way to make your window bigger, then yes. If not, no. Okay, try this. I'll give you guys like 2 minutes or something. Okay, get your pointers out. First question. Please point at yes or no. Okay, second question, please point at yes or no. And finally, third question, please point that yes or no. Okay, not bad. First, though, I mean, okay, I think it's clear that this problem has nothing to do with, please, no highlighter. Thank you. No highlighter. Pointers. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and disable the whiteboard permissions because we don't need them anymore. Okay. Please follow directions, people. Pointer doesn't mean highlighter, and pointer doesn't mean drag. Thanks. Okay. I think it's clear this problem is not about budget, so we can kill this tab. So, but what do we need? Well, what do we actually want? What we want is we need to say yes if it confirms that the artifact was created during the time of this kingdom. So that's time. That means we need specific date information. So this is what we want. So then we need to just get from techniques to that information. So, well, this is the date we want. The first tab we don't need either, because there's the questions are on there. Darn it. Can I undo that? I don't think I can undo that. This is going to be inefficient, but I think I have to open the whiteboard all over again. So, hold on while I do that. Sorry, guys. Okay, so this is what we are looking at. Okay, here's the question again. Okay, so we can get rid of that. We can also get rid of this, because we need specific date information, and the only tab with anything at all about specific date information is tab 2. So your target date range is that. That's the yes, if you can be in this range. Okay, well, right off the bat, the only two tests that we care about are radiocarbon and TL. So if you see any test other than radiocarbon and TL, it's irrelevant to specific dates, because they don't tell you that. So bone necklace with IRMS, we actually don't care, because IRMS is irrelevant, and so is ICP-MS. So actually right away, these are both gone. If you are not focused, then you might waste a lot of time reading about IRMS and ICP-MS, but this is the focus. This is what you want, is a specific date. A specific date is the time of the Caxton Kingdom. We literally don't care about anything else at all. So, can't be emphasized enough. These two should be quick eliminations. If you are not focused, they will take you a while. So, it's a nice indicator of whether you have the right degree of focus. The TL dating is accurate within 100 years plus or minus. So what that means is it's 1050 BC plus or minus, according to this information, according to the passage. TL dating to 1050 BC means 1050 BC plus or minus 100 years. That's anywhere between 1150 and 950 BC. this is all during the time of the Caxna Kingdom, so this whole range is during the time of the Caxna Kingdom. So, yes to the question. Boom. So again, it's the focus. Focus, 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 people. If you're like massively running out of time on these things, that means you are not focused. That means you are not looking at the information and saying, I want that. And I don't care about that and that and that and that and this. Because there's going to be, a small fraction of the information that matters in any case. So focus. Focus on what you want. It's not a rules kind of game. It's just what's the relevant information, which will be a very small fraction of a very large amount of stuff. Okay, we're done. We gotta quit it here pretty soon, but thank you guys for attending. And what we're gonna do in a short bit, which is more like a long bit, what we're gonna do is when we come back in about 4 weeks, we're going to go ahead and visit some more integrated reasoning problems. Okay, the question in the text box, how much weight did it carry? It's not part of your 200 through 800 score, so in that sense, it doesn't carry any weight. It's actually completely non-weighted in that way of thinking. I mean, in some years it might start to matter more, but it should be a very minor consideration right now. Again, we're covering it because so many people wanted to cover it, but yeah, it's going to be at the beginning. It's going to replace one of the essay questions on the GMAT. Max, we tell you what, go ahead and when the recording comes out, go watch the first 10-15 minutes of the recording, because we had that discussion in its entirety. And you can just see what we said there, because otherwise we would just be repeating everything. So check that out, please. Thank you. Okay. Awesome. So we are out of here. Remember, the next study hall is not till the 28th. So for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is that, one of those reasons is that I'm going to be out of the country for a little while. But another reason is just that we're, with the change in the test, we decided to give you guys a break and, to chill out for a little while. So, in about a month from now, back to it. Awesome. Okay, so thank you for coming, and going to be back in South America for a couple of weeks. So yeah, just in time for it to be winter down there. Great. Okay. Thank you guys. We are going to quit it. I'm going to kill the recording at this point.